So step one is the proper qualifications early on, or qualifying questions in the discovery phase. That's step one. Step two is you have to strategically choose the product or service you're going to sell them. That is part of this. How am I going to strategically choose the product or service to sell to them? Based on the answers they gave me earlier. Based on me quantifying what their pain is, that's how I'm going to choose. If someone tells me, I think I can become a $50,000 speaker and I think I can speak 100 times a year, if they think they can be a $50 million or a $5 million a year speaker, which over the course of 10 years means they're going to do 50 million in revenue, they can probably afford to invest $250,000 to work with me one-on-one for 2 days. And it's a killer of a deal because I am confident I can help them get to that level because I've helped other people get to that level. And I don't speak that much at that fee range, but I do get that fee range regularly, right? So like I know what it takes to get to that level. So now all of a sudden it's great. You're a prospect for me. If their frame of reference is lower, I'm going to sell them something else, which, by the way, is a service, folks. Don't pitch them on things you know are not the right fit for them or they can't afford. It's not because they're a bad person or they're less than. It means they're earlier in their journey than someone else, right? Like they're earlier in their journey. This is why AJ and I have always committed that we're always going to have a lower ticket offer to be inside a brand builders group because we were broke as a joke. Like there was a time in our life where we were broke as a joke. Didn't mean we didn't have the potential. We didn't mean we weren't committed. Didn't mean we weren't smart enough. It just meant we were early. We were too early in our journey. We didn't have any money. And so we were desperate and scrapping and spending, and we were wasting money on bad advice. And so that's why we were like, there's always going to be an affordable level of brand builders group. Always. Strategically choose what you're going to sell them. Now, step three, when you deliver their price, okay, before you deliver the price, what you want to do is reference the value. You're going to call back the value of their dream. You're going to call back the value of their dream. Then you're going to call back the value, or let's say call back the cost of their nightmare. So that's step four. So then in step five, what you're going to do is you're going to reference more expensive alternatives. Then in step six, you're going to deliver the price. And we call it dropping the bottom out. That's what happens in step six. Okay, so let's walk through each of these quickly. So step one happens in the discovery phase. It's qualifying questions early on. Step two, strategically choose the product or service you're going to sell to them based on where they're at in their journey, right? Based on where they are at in their journey. By the way, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying charge some people more money than others for the same level of service. I'm not saying that. We don't do that. We don't charge two different people two different prices for the same thing. We don't do that. We always charge the same for the same thing, unless it's a pay for performance situation. And it's okay, there's some percentage, right? Like our affiliates get paid differently, but they're getting a percentage of whatever they send to us. But they're getting 10%, right? That's what we're paying. So they get paid differently to have me on their podcast, but it's a percentage performance. You're going to strategically select what you're going to sell to them. So now when we deliver the price, there's three parts of this. You're going to call back the value of their dream. You're going to call back the cost. Step three. Step four, you're going to call back the cost of their nightmare. Step five, you're going to reference more expensive alternatives or competitors. And then you're going to deliver the price, which is dropping the bottom out. Now, here's where it's a tad complicated. The steps that I just gave you, step three, step four, step five, which is call back the value of their dream, call back the cost of their nightmare, and reference more expensive alternatives. The order in which you do those can change based on whatever the numbers are. Okay? So what I want you to think about for now for a second is, remember I said a number is just a number. A number only means something in context to another number. So if I'm going to sell something that is $1,000, the numbers that they need to see and hear before I tell them it's $10,000 need to be higher than $10,000. Hopefully that makes sense. That's the big idea here. But it's especially powerful. It's especially psychologically effective if the numbers they hear ratchet up versus down. Okay? So if I'm going to sell you something that's $10,000, what the order in which I want you to hear the numbers are $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000, and then $10,000. We call it a price buildup because the numbers need to go up and then you drop the bottom out with the price. What you don't want to do, I'm going to use those same numbers. Okay? And again, we're not talking about any other reference other than the numbers themselves right now. What I don't want to do is say 100,000, 50,000, 30,000, 20,000, 10,000. When I deliver the numbers going down, it makes them expect the next number to be lower. That creates risk because they might be expecting or hoping that number to be lower than what the number actually is. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to deliver the numbers going up. So they're expecting the numbers to be up, and then I drop the bottom out. So in order to do that, when you craft a price buildup, and by the way, if you do a 2-day pressure-free persuasion brand strategy session with our team, you'd likely would work, at least at this point, you would likely work with Elle Petrillo. She's like our senior sales strategist. She would actually help you craft these, like for your business. You can work on them also with your strategist. Y'all can work on it together too. But do you see how much I want you to pause here for a second and see how much intentionality is going into how we deliver all of this, how we set this up. It's framing or pre-framing, right? That's what all of this is. So let's say you're selling something that's $10,000 and the cost, and very often, by the way, very often the biggest north number is their dream, very often. So very often the dream is actually the last thing that you would say. Very often, this is just, and I probably should teach it, I could teach it this way, is to say, you first, when you do the price buildup, typically you're going to start with the cost of their nightmare. Then you're going to start with the cost of them doing it themselves, or excuse me, competitors. Let me map this out. So typically it's nightmare, then I would say it's competitors, then it's DIY, then it's dream. Okay. When you do this price buildup, when you actually deliver the price, you do it in a little bit different order than the way that I taught it to you. And that's because in the early part of the conversation, you ask them questions about their dream first, then their nightmare, then competitors, then DIY. That's typically the flow in which you ask the questions early. But when you get to the price buildup, now you're talking, you typically are going to deliver the numbers in the order nightmare, competitors, DIY, and their dream.